Hello.
Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Elizabeth. Just trying to see if Jonathan and Amanda are here.
Amanda and Elizabeth, I'm switching us up a little bit. I hope you guys are good with thinking on your feet.
Is there a slide deck for this one, Will?
There is not. No, this is just a conversation.
Okay.
Sorry, not Amanda. Jen, I hope you're good at thinking on your feet.
Oh, I am. You know what? I looked at the questions and I thought I'm just going to be better off to just answer as we go than to try to think of some crafted special response. I mean, people just want me to speak authentically, right?
Oh yeah.
Are you throwing me? Are you warning me that you're throwing me to the wolves and I better brace? Is that what you're saying, Will? There's some difficult questions coming.
But they're fun questions. They're fun.
Okay.
Questions. And then we'll get into the serious questions.
That's fine.
And if people log on late, we'll miss the fun.
Woo, fun. What? I was talking about fun so early in the morning.
I think he's talking about having fun at our expense, Elizabeth. We might need to worry.
Oh, Jennifer, we can get back at him easily.
Yes, we'll find a way.
He's an easy target.
Whatever. Once I'm done chair, I'm peacing out, guys. Sorry. I'll see that.
You got 1 week left.
Yeah.
It's good. I'm glad that we got so many people. How many people did we have in that last session at the end? I wasn't looking at the participant list.
We had 44 at one point.
Fantastic.
Good.
Yeah.
I kept on seeing people pop up. So,
Gabby, I haven't met you before. What region are you from?
I am not an IABC member. I am just a volunteer.
Oh, well, thank you.
just a volunteer.
Not just a volunteer.
Yeah.
Where do you live?
Calgary.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I was an IBC member when I lived in Vancouver, briefly.
So is all this volunteering making you want to come back in the fold?
At some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about timing. And
It's
the right
all about
opportunities.
timing. That is for sure.
And then once you're back in, hopefully you don't leave, much like Elizabeth, Wendy, Jen, and I.
Lifers.
Well, then you find out that once you volunteer on the board, they never let you leave.
No, they don't tell. They don't
But
tell
you
you
don't
that.
really want to. No.
I worked with Catherine Ducharme 10 years ago, and I was just getting back into it, and I was like, Catherine, you are still here.
Yeah, she's
never leaving.
She's so lovely.
Yeah.
She just has so much to give. Like, she's incredible.
Okay, so we're waiting for Jonathan and Amanda. Okay, Amanda's there. I'll admit her. If Jonathan's not on in 5 minutes, would you start without him? Will?
He'll be on. And he's an old pro at this. I can throw him completely under the bus and he'd be fine.
Okay.
Amanda, I was telling everyone, I hope you're good at thinking on your feet. I'm mixing things up at the very beginning.
Okay.
It'll be fun.
Well, you're good at thinking on your feet too, then.
That's exactly what we said.
What's that? Sorry, I'm on mute.
Oh, I accidentally put myself on mute. Weird. These gummies are super good. I like them.
What brand? Show us the package.
The Squish.
Oh, I have to. You're right. Oops.
Yeah, like I mentioned, like we were living off these for a while there because they're a vegan company, and so we were able to actually eat them when we went vegan for March, which we're never doing ever again. Never ever again. Advice. And
Well, this is so awesome.
Jonathan's here. I told you he'd be here. He'd be on time.
Man in his suit's never late.
I'm Somebody doubted you,
I gonna
Jonathan,
like
but it
slowly
wasn't
get
us.
like more undone as the day goes on, like just goes around the head maybe eventually.
By the social at 5:45, yeah, it's the tie's not going to be on.
The shirt, maybe. We'll see.
Probably.
Or
Will,
maybe
you
the
should
tie
wear
will be a
your
headband by then.
Will, you should wear your outfit from LI in Austin.
Oh God.
Vest and the eagle shirt.
I think I still do have that.
Vest anymore.
That was well
is that?
curated.
Where is that? I think it might be upstairs somewhere. I bought a bunch of stuff from Austin, which I totally intended to wear for like Stampede and stuff like that. And then Stampede never happened. So I put them somewhere and then they disappeared.
Like you, Stampede's back. You have to go dig that stuff up.
Is it back this summer? No.
It is.
Wow.
Klondike or K-Days in Edmonton isn't going forward, but apparently Stampede is because
Virtually like every festival isn't going forward except for Stampede.
yeah, because we don't give a fuck.
Did you see the Sky Palace stuff?
Yeah, that was hard to miss.
Somebody like created a reservations website that is like the call to action is like donate to the NDP, but it's pretty funny.
Oh man, that's I don't know. Do you guys know who their communication people are? Like for Kenny, like who's there advising him? Like, who's handling all of that?
I'm gonna let
Cowboys.
people- you guys ready?
We can start letting people in. We'll be on our best behavior.
PG.
Jonathan, I'm mixing this up at the beginning. Hope you're be fast on your feet thinking.
No problem.
Ominous.
Go for it, Wendy. Whatever you need to do. Welcome back, everyone. Our morning is almost done, although some of you are probably in lunch hour right now. Is that right? Jonathan, you're in lunch hour?
No, right now Saskatchewan is on the same time zone as Alberta. Manitoba would be on lunchtime.
Yes. Lunchtime here.
Where's Roland? What is he eating? No, I don't see him yet.
I'm getting gummy bears for lunch.
Gabby and Asha, you guys are good, right? Wendy had to step away. Okay, thank you, Gabby. As communicators, we're experts at putting out fires. Admit. 25 participants. Okay. We are hopefully entering the fun rounds of Dare to Lead. We're getting to get to know people a little bit better here, especially amongst our leadership. So I'm going to start. We'll let people join in as we need to, because this is recorded. They can catch up if they miss out on any of the fun. So thank you for joining the Being on the Board panel. This is a panel that's specifically targeted for leaders who are new to their role and looking to learn from other seasoned, veteran IABC volunteer leaders who are going to share their experiences through a series of questions, talk about some of the challenges they faced, the successes they've had, offer advice to help you succeed. If any questions come up, please add them on there. If you yourself are a veteran leader and you have some thoughts that you'd like to add to the conversation, the host muted me. Gabby, what are you doing? What did I say? Okay, so let's start this off. Let me introduce you to the speakers who you're going to be learning a little bit more from. They're your fellow chapter colleagues and friends that hopefully soon you would consider friends, I would hope. First up, let me start off with Elizabeth Bunney. If you can wave and everyone can see who Elizabeth is. Elizabeth to me is an expert Airbnb finder extraordinaire. Hanging out with her, we had, especially in Austin for LI, we were able to find some really nice places to stay. And because I am a horrible person at figuring out what my schedule is, she let me crash in one of her Airbnbs when I had nowhere to stay one evening. So very, very thankful for Elizabeth and her skills on there. But in her day job, she's a communications jack of all trades, an exemplary strategic planner, event planner, crisis and issues manager, relationship builder, and key message developer. Her previous experience on IABC Edmonton's board was as a director of the Capital Awards, a senior director of administration, and now she's currently the vice president for the next few weeks before she takes on the big role. What? Oh, no, you guys are doing extra. Never mind. Edmonton has a weird schedule, which I'm sure they're going to share with you later on in other sessions, or maybe even in this session. But regardless, let me move on to Jennifer Cox, who is my newest friend on IABC. I haven't had a chance to spend too much time in person with Jennifer, but I know from what I know of her, she's been a great voice around the CWR table. But she has plenty of years of experience using storytelling as a communication tool to inspire action and to transform lives. She's worked in the post-secondary education sector, particularly the University of Winnipeg right now, for most of her career. And she is a communications lead and strategic storyteller in her current role. She's passionate in helping to solve communications problems, sharing success stories, and thinking critically about how to take bigger thinking strategy to a grassroots level. She's an active volunteer, and she's the incoming president of IABC Manitoba, where, of course, like all of us, she loves talking communications with peers around the world. Next up, I have Amanda, who, there you are. I see you're next to a picture of yourself, which is Asha, which is funny. But Amanda is the board secretary of CWR. She's also part of what I like to call the scooter gang, and she is my run partner when we are out traveling to different IABC events. She's been a proud member of IABC since 2003, a hardworking volunteer since 2014, and that included leading the Edmonton chapter in 2018 and 19, and now she is sitting on the CWR board. She has 15 years of experience in the communication field. She's worked with a variety of sectors and currently is the financial services as the manager of media and member engagement for Service Credit Union in Alberta. Jonathan, the best dressed man here that I actually been able to see on camera. You can't miss him, he's in the suit. He is a CMP, but also part of the International Executive Board member and a member of IABC Regina. Jonathan is the reason that I am actually in this role. So if he taps you, be honored, because not only did he tap me, but he also tapped Sue Neiman, who is the incoming chair for Canada West region. So I'm a little bit biased, but I think he knows talent where he sees it. He is currently serving, as I mentioned earlier, as part of the IAB, but he's also served as the IABC's Canada West region, and he's been the president of IABC Regina. And he is a CMP, which is a communications management professional, the certification that we talked about earlier on. And he's currently the director of communication for the government of Saskatchewan and has a decade of experience as director of communication, and he's been a spokesperson and lead on issues management and media relations for Saskatchewan's electric utility, Sask Power, for several years. So join me in thanking our panelists for joining us for today to give their experience. So we're going to learn a little bit more about our panelists. They have a lot of great experience. They are happy to share it with you guys so you guys can avoid some of the pitfalls or gain some sort of learnings. But because I just watched the Friends reunion this week, I am going to start us off with a lightning round. So turn on your speakers, Jen, Elizabeth, Amanda, Jonathan. If you guys on the in the audience want to join in, you can join in with your own answers as well. But try not to talk over each other, guys, but as soon as I ask this question, I want the quickest response that you can provide that is both fun, but also insightful for yourself. So starting us off, how long have you been an IABC member?
3 years.
7.
17 years.
11.
Oh,
Oh, Amanda. Nice, nice. Some newbies and some veterans here. Where is the best place to recruit?
At the bar.
I was going to say that.
Accurate.
I'll be more specific and say at the urinals at the bar, which, for those of you that don't know, is where I recruited Will to be vice chair of the region.
I was vulnerable and I had to say yes.
Whatever gets the yes.
That's how you get the best blackmail on people, in the urinal. All right. The best chapter, not your own.
BC.
Calgary.
Manitoba.
Thank you.
Very nice. All over. Thank you. You guys are so gracious to one another. Who in IABC has the coolest animal pet?
Oh, I'm going to say Marjorie. She's one of our board members. She just had a bear visit her on the weekend, and I'm pretty sure that it's a new friend and pet. Don't know if anyone else can say that.
Is she still joining the board?
She is. But I wish I had the video. It came right up to her window. Yeah, a welcome addition to her community. Maybe not, but don't leave your windows open if you live in Riding Mountain.
I think it's a tie for me between Danelle and Will and their cats that are always like lurking around in the back. Yeah.
Catter day.
They are sleeping. No dog love? Come on. There's a lot of dogs around IABC.
We don't get to see them.
I do like Dana's suggestion on the chat. Cool pet photos or they don't qualify. So if you have pet photos, put them up. Send us links on Instagram. Okay, final one for the lightning round. Marry, F, or kill. Dare to Lead, Leadership Institute, or World Conference.
Wait, marry what or kill?
F or kill.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you changed it. Whew.
So do we have to categorize
I don't know how that works.
What?
Okay.
Sorry.
If they were people, Dare to Lead, a World Conference, or Leadership Institute, who would you marry? Who would you have a one night with? Or who would you kill?
I'd marry Dare to Lead. I don't want to kill any of them, but World Conference and LI, just because it's international, let's put them in the F category.
They are good for the one-nighters.
We got to marry Dare to Lead. I mean, here we are, right? But yeah, I don't know about the others. I'm a monogamous kind of person, even when it comes to conferences.
They're all good. I'm partial to the more local ones because I get to see people like yourselves, and we actually, it's like we are married. We've had a relationship for years, and no one ever steps away for some reason. They're always there.
I would kill World Conference only because I'm usually dead after the first night at Canada Party. So the rest of it, I'm just kind of floating through, FYI.
The trick is be able to function after the first night of every conference.
Mm-hmm.
You still got to wake up. Sometimes you got to present.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay, let's get into this. Let's have a really good conversation about what your experiences have been with your roles as leadership. And obviously, as we talked earlier on, we have some people who've been on boards or volunteers for just a few years, and we have a few people who've been on for more than a decade, which is a great experience to kind of have. You've seen some stuff, especially with Dare to Lead. So we talked about a little bit about recruiting, but how did you guys get recruited to volunteer for IABC? Why did you make that decision to commit, especially as a leader, at least 3 years of your time? Elizabeth, obviously, the Edmonton structure, you're more than 3 years. But again, that's a big commitment. Why did you guys do that?
Which order? Doesn't matter.
Whoever can talk first, and let's just build up.
Honestly, Suzanne has convinced me all the way along since the very beginning. I wasn't always convinced that I could do it, but she was. She put her trust in me. So if she saw something in me, obviously there must be something there. And I have to say that within the last year, I believe her.
Okay.
I'd say like similarly, like, well, Suzanne has often influenced me as well to stick around. But you know, to that point, I think I've always kind of taken it year by year, and it's always the people that I've gotten the chance to work with that have brought me back, or that accountability to them and helping, you know, helping for the greater cause. Obviously, when you accept the leadership track in a chapter, that is a 3-year commitment, which was a big, you know, which was a big decision for sure. But I think when I looked at the people that I was going to be working alongside over those 3 years, it just made a lot of sense. And I knew that that would be a good experience. It would be challenging, but you get to go through it with people that were going to really bring a lot to your work life and to your personal life too.
I joined because I was new to Manitoba and I wanted to meet other professional communicators and get a bit on the pulse of what was happening in the communications community here and build my community. And very quickly landed on the board and into a leadership track, and found out that as soon as you sort of take initiative and want to sort of do things and get things done and create a community, you get grabbed onto and dragged into the leadership track, even if 3 years is it is a big commitment. But I think that one of the biggest things for me is, you know, engagement breeds engagement, and if you don't step in and you don't get involved, you're never going to create the kind of community that you envision having. So I think I joined and jumped into the roles that came in front of me because I really want to create that kind of community, and I want IABC to be something in Manitoba and beyond that people are like, wow, what are they doing over there? I want to be part of this. And so in order to create that, you need to step up, and sometimes that makes long days, but it's been a ton of fun and a great group of people.
Jonathan, close us off.
I don't want to talk too much. I have a lot to say about this topic. For myself, I've been on boards since I was on student council in high school. Of course I was. But I've always been a big fan of recognizing the selfish part of volunteerism. It's what keeps me going when things get a bit overwhelming. I need to always know what I'm getting out of it, which is meeting all of you, building my own network, gaining new skills I wouldn't get otherwise. And in Regina, that was one of the primary things. When someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, there's a vacancy on this board, I jumped at the opportunity. I've been a civil servant for more than 10 years, and there's a limited array of tactics I'll ever see as a public servant. I'm rarely going to see shareholder communications. I'm rarely going to see employee engagement done in a way that meets best practice. I'm rarely going to see marketing. So IABC was really my way of expanding that skill set and seeing things I wouldn't have seen otherwise, financial communications being one of them. And I haven't looked back since. All of my opportunities, like the others have said, have come from me just saying yes to things. And if you're there to know what you're contributing and know what you're getting out of it, I think that's also the key to not burning out when you take on these 3-year and more commitments.
No, absolutely. I hope that's resonating with people. Like for me, it's the same thing, right? Like you build a community, you're invested in this community, and then that community kind of builds you up and taps you or tells you like, you know what, you should fit into this role. And like Elizabeth said at the very beginning, it's like you're never sure that like you're ready for this, but all it takes is you just kind of keep diving in there and validating what others see in you. And I can validate like that everyone that I've worked with on the CWR, you're the right choices at the right time, and you bring a specialized skill. So it's been fantastic to get to know you guys and see everyone shine. And I hope everyone else here on this call gets that opportunity in their own way.
Well, can I just add something? I forgot something that was important to me when I first started. I was scared of networking, and I think for people that are new to boards, like, and don't know people, and recognizing, you know, we're telling a lot of stories that are kind of inside baseball in a lot of ways, and I know that can be intimidating, and that was intimidating to me too when I first joined the board. But I think what's really beautiful about this experience is that it is really welcoming and really friendly, and it really expanded my horizons with my ability to network and my confidence in connecting with new people and things like that. So I'd say, like, if you're feeling intimidated by, you know, by this network of people that knows each other, and even on your own chapter boards, that will pass, because you get to work really tangibly with people, and have fun with them too, and that really changes the whole experience.
Absolutely. I felt the same thing coming in, and I wasn't nearly like that with the local board, but when I joined CWR, it was that kind of sense of like, I don't really know anyone. But then you kind of look back about it, it's like, no, I made a lot of friends in Dare to Lead and through Leadership Institute, and like it all just kind of naturally clicks. And yeah, it's one of those things where it just really it's empowering. So thank you for sharing that, Amanda. Now, jumping onto that theme, like, can we talk about some of the biggest challenges you experienced? What were like some unexpected things that you encountered within your leadership role, whether it be that or anything that you found operational? What challenges do you think our listeners should be aware of?
I'll go. Well, I've had various throughout my last decade on various boards. I will talk about one internal and one external. The one internal is I've been known to say yes to too many things. It's something I know about myself, and I keep my own post-it of what my priorities are, make sure my family's always at the top and the like. But, sitting on multiple boards and doing too much, you don't realize what's happening to you until you take, let's say, a week off at Christmas, and then you dread going back to it. So very early on, 8-9 years ago, I really made that conscious decision of realizing how much I'm putting into things, holding my tongue when I really want to volunteer for something, and just really focusing on the things I've already committed to and the things I really want to do. So that was an internal challenge that keeps popping up. Absolutely, especially during my president year for IABC Regina, during my chair year for Canada West. And not so far on, over here, but it's lonely at the top, goes the adage. It absolutely is. So I had to convince myself to not do it alone, surround myself with people I trusted and cared about, and people that shared passion about the things I'm passionate about. So that was a good internal learning. Externally, I've had a lot of challenges over the last decade. From board members that are hard to recruit to board members that don't get along with other board members, or maybe I'll bring up the last Canada West conference. Will that was an interesting experience. We had a great program team to bring a world-class conference to Banff about 2 years ago, and our kickoff speaker was someone that is known to be controversial, speaks about things that not everyone agrees about, but the topic was very much, don't trust all the information you receive. And as communicators, you're part of the interpretation to give all the options, give all the context to people. This person has been known to be critical of environmental groups and supportive of oil and gas sector here in Western Canada. So as you can imagine, some controversy. We knew this going in. Slowly but surely, the emails got more and more aggressive to myself, to the organizers, etc., with some calls to not give this person a venue because they don't agree with their point of view. So, I've worked in crisis comms for many, many years. And so I tried using best practice and do everything I can. I have a personal motto that if no one's happy with the final product, that might be a win because it means you didn't pick a winner. So that's certainly where we tried to land. But even then, up to and including threats against my safety and my family, it was, and Brett Wilson calling me an asshole on Twitter. That was an interesting 6 or 7 weeks that I don't care to relive. I learned a lot from it. It made me a stronger comms leader and someone that's a bit more calm when things like this happen, just because I've seen what it could be. Brent, who was the person? We'll see. We'll talk. We'll show up to the social tonight. We can talk more. So I'll say that was my first real exposure of asking my people on my Canada West board just to check. We're all insured against liability, right? So yes, on the regional level we were, so I was relatively protected, but I was careful, and a lot of it was just eating it up and keeping it to yourself. It never felt good, but I didn't want to make the people around me feel it. I want to make sure my conference co-chairs were actually focused on the conference and delivering, that optimal experience, and taking on all the shitty stuff for myself as the board chair. After that was done, took a bit of a break. And what's funny is, to me, I have some confirmation bias because of this. I saw this happen over and over again, especially in Saskatchewan. The city of Regina here had a speaker that at the last minute, huge backlash about what they were going to talk about, had to pull him. And then the other side of the backlash, oh, why would you bend to these people in cancel culture? There's no real winning. So I keep seeing this happen more and more. And it was a good exercise for me because I've seen it firsthand, and I can advise my senior leaders at work how there is no potential rosy winning situation, but there are some things to avoid, and I owe IABC that learning opportunity. I'll leave it at that.
It was an epic experience having seen you go through it, and sadly I wasn't able to kind of participate in it until I got there because I was in Europe as that was unfolding and wondering what the hell is going on. And then you get there and we're all just like boots on the ground. And yeah, like the team gets you through it. And like what Jonathan said, like you surround yourself with some great people. And like, yeah, we were, Dana, like you're talking about like the ethics committee on there. You were right in the middle of it as well. And we were just like focused and we delivered a really great product. People within the conference, I don't necessarily picked it up. It was mainly outside. Like we talked about it here and there. I think you did a really great job of managing that situation so it didn't distract from what we were actually achieving.
Yes, thanks, Dana. I completely forgot. They said I went through a full ethics investigation of the IABC ethics committee for my role in this. It was not that stressful because I truly believed in how we went about this and how our conference chairs did it. But yeah, there were a lot of little stressors there in that situation. And it was because I had the advice of the people around me that you can't be a terrible communicator and on an IABC board. That doesn't exist. So the people around you, you can at least start from there and trust them that you can ask them for anything and their advice on anything.
Awesome. Who wants to take share an experience next? Jen, Elizabeth, Amanda?
How do you follow that up?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
I would say though, like, you know, I think what that demonstrates is, you know, what IABC, what volunteering in IABC can give you, like in terms of what your career, actually what you do in your career. I think for me, it was a lot of like personal learning. When I moved into leadership track with IABC Edmonton, it was also kind of a critical time in my career where I was developing as a leader on the job as well. And I think, you know, I faced some hard truths with myself about, you know, my own expectations for myself and others around me, how to have difficult conversations with people, how to manage my expectations and balance my life and my responsibilities appropriately. So I think that that's been one of the biggest challenges for me, especially, you know, as much as like, you know, my personality colors don't show super high in terms of social or people related things. Like the people have always been really important to me. And I think I've really struggled with being afraid of letting people down and not being there for them appropriately. And you know, and I wore that definitely after I finished in the leadership track. I was so tired because IABC Edmonton's board is big as well. And, you know, when you feel like accountable for 23 other people and you don't want to let them down and you want to be there for them, that was really difficult, but also incredible because, you know, I got to work with, you know, 23 amazing people over the course of several years and learn from them and grow from them and still stay connected to them and watch them also flourish and grow now that I'm not within the chapter. So not as good of an answer as Jonathan, but that was my journey.
Anything to build on, Jen or Elizabeth?
Yeah, I kind of think I can build on that as far as talking about sustainability. Like Amanda was saying, like you have these expectations and you go in with these big dreams and ideas of what you're going to be able to do. And the capacity sometimes just isn't there. And so then, you know, for me, it was a learning curve of how do I sort of pass that capacity over to others and empower them to take on these roles. And I guess what comes to mind as I think about it is like, I'm a real perfectionist. I like things to be exactly so and everything to be in line. And I, you know, you realize that if you have a really small thing that you're trying to do, you can make everything perfect. But if you have a really big vision and if you want to do something that's like going to have a huge impact, there's just no way that you can do it all on your own and have the impact that you want to have. So you have to pass it to other people, and you have to leave room for, in our IABC Manitoba board, we have a lot of students. So sometimes there's a lot of keenness to volunteer and eagerness, but you know, they're still learning. So then you have to have capacity to mentor them through, and have room for there to be sometimes mistakes, and to sort of be able to learn and grow from that. So I think that's been the biggest learning curve for me, and I've seen it grow. Like it's been a challenge, but I've also seen it from my first year on the board, where I felt like our capacity was super limited, and our committees were like committees of one, because every team kind of had one person that had the capacity to volunteer but couldn't actually, you know, do everything that needed to be done. In this past year, we've developed teams where our marketing and communications team is a team of 4 or 5 people, and our membership team has 3 people on it. And like, you know, I mean, those numbers might not be huge compared to, say, a large chapter like BC, but for Manitoba, that's been a huge win. And so we've been able to sort of see that unfold. And so it's been a negative and a challenge in that it definitely stretched my capacity at times, but it's just felt like a huge win. And I think next year is going to be even better. So I don't know if that answers it correctly, but that's what comes to mind for me.
It's a good perspective, and thank you for sharing that. And like, yeah, it's something I'm sure a lot of others have experienced as well. Elizabeth.
Yeah, so mine's exactly along the same lines as both Amanda and Jennifer. You know, I think about I haven't been on the board as long, but as the director of Capital Awards for the first year, like that, it's a beast. It's for anybody that's ever attended or have seen, it's a beast. It takes over your entire life. And this is your volunteer position on top of your roles at home as, you know, a mom and a partner and your actual job. So you look at the board above you and you're just like, man, these people on these incredible, inspiring people that you're looking at, these communicators, and you just want to make them proud. And I was going through a divorce at the time, and my life was falling apart, and I was trying to keep everything together. And I forgot to lean on the 23 other people that we had on the board. And it's incredible. We have some amazing people. And the minute that I did that, everyone stepped up to help. It was a beautiful event. I was able to, like, you know, save my sanity a little bit there, but that's the piece that I forgot. And I tell that to everyone that I can. I'm like, we have these amazing, incredible other people, lean on them, not just in Edmonton, but across Canada West.
And that's a great point, because I that was a learning that I had to have as well. And for those who know me, like I've experienced a lot of family deaths recently in the past 5 years, and the Calgary board was fantastic about supporting me. This year when it happened, Sue and Catherine and Amanda, everyone on the Canada West board stepped in to help me where I needed it. And it's just kind of speaks to the family that you develop as a team. And hopefully you have that high functioning team that you are comfortable just asking for a little bit of help, because like generally everyone will like step in there and provide some sort of assistance in any way. It's that I think it's a key to being an effective leader, to know that you just can't take it all on. So thank you for sharing that, Elizabeth. With that in mind, like we talked about some of the challenges, let's flip it around then. Let's talk about some advice that you can provide to any of these new leaders here of what they can do to make the most of their board experience this year, managing all those priorities, managing their lives, but also like getting that job done. What advice would you give them to help them sort through that?
I don't mind starting on that one. I think the biggest advice, and anybody that has been on my team will have heard me say it, is really trying to choose your measurables, choose what you want to achieve and what you want to do and what you feel passionate about, so that you feel proud of your role at IABC, and so that you want to share it with your boss or share it as you make next steps in your career, and keeping that in line. Because I think that as a board volunteer, you can get asked to do 10 things at once, and you do have to make choices about capacity. And sometimes you want to take all those 10 things on. And so that means, or not that you take 10 things on, that's probably not possible, but sometimes you want to take on more than you're able. Just say that. And in that case, there are a whole bunch of other amazing leaders who you can turn to for support and ideas and advice, and you're not doing it alone, and you can, you know, build a team. But I think it's really about keeping your vision of why you're on the board, so that you always remember that you're doing this as a way of giving back to the community, but you also want something out of it. You're also trying to build your career. I know for myself, within 6 months of taking on a leadership role with IABC, I was offered a leadership role at the university. So it's like, even it does tie in. There is a direct correlation between what you're doing at IABC and what you're doing at work. So even though it feels like sometimes, I know for myself, it sometimes feels a little bit overwhelming because I have big visions, and so it can get to feel a lot. I've color coded my calendar so that whenever I have dedicated IABC time, I've color coded it. And so if there's weeks where you see green and it's like, oh my gosh, okay, I have to keep this in balance. So I think those are my two biggest pieces of advice, is the one of keeping your vision of what you're trying to get out of it, and so it's measurable for IABC, but also measurable for yourself and your career. And the second one is, keep the balance. Make sure you're still going out for a bike ride. Make sure you're, taking the time for you, and that you don't let yourself get sucked into a vortex where you're feeling overwhelmed. And like, I think it was Jonathan that said after taking a week off, he was, at first sort of dreading going back because he'd taken on so much that it wasn't sustainable. You want to enter back into it in a way that you're doing things that excite you, and maybe sometimes it is a lot, so you've asked for support for others to get that done, but you're also giving yourself that time and that balance so that it's sustainable and you can keep doing it and keep liking it.
Absolutely, the balance is important, and as I think Danelle, you mentioned on the chat, keeping that in mind is absolutely what you should prioritize. And even just taking which are your IABC days and which ones aren't, and making sure everyone's aware of that so that they know what your boundaries are. The rest of the panel, anything to add? Elizabeth, you went off mute.
Go for it, Elizabeth.
I was going to say, I mean, for me, the two biggest things have been relationships and connection. IABC, I mean, that's essentially, for people that know me, that's sort of who I am, but I've really, really honed that in the last couple of years and leaned on, not just our local chapter, but also across Canada West and international. I started drinking the Kool-Aid 2 years ago or 3, I don't know how many years ago, at Regina Dare to Lead. I was invited to come. It was in the middle of Capital Words. It was like, oh my God, this is, I can't take time away from this, but okay, I'll go to this conference, sure. And I go to the conference, and by the end of it, I remember both Amanda and Megan saying to me, okay, so what did you learn? How do you feel? And I'm like, okay, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, like send me the membership box. Like I want it all, because I met Roland and I met Jonathan and I met, I can't even think who else is here. I think Dana, I can't remember if Dana was there, but I get it. I got it. And those are the connections. Those are the people, these are at all levels of experience in all fields. And these are the people that are going to help support you through your entire career in your life, not just through IABC. So for me, it's the relationships. And I know that, we've talked a little bit about networking and how difficult that might be for some people. Latch on to somebody, I would say, find yourself a board buddy, find somebody who you can connect with, and those people will draw you in. And I have some of my best friends through IABC, for life because of it. That's all.
Jonathan, you were about to say something as well?
I don't want to repeat myself too much. Well, just, I'll give the same advice in two different ways. One for the presidents and incoming presidents in the audience. Volunteer Management 101, you have to make sure you understand the boundaries of the people that you're leading and how much time they're willing and can give you, and then make an absolute commitment to never take more unless you specifically ask. Conversely, to all the other board members, please know your own limits, your boundaries, how much you want to give. Because what I've seen happen too often, and it has happened to me in other organizations than IABC, I give more than I want to. I slowly start resenting it. I leave the organizations and never come back. So that Volunteer Management 101 is really understanding where that line is for each person. Some people are crazy workaholics. Let them manage that part of their life and give them as much as they want. Some people have children, perhaps they are taking care of someone with an illness. You don't know, right? Perhaps they can only give you 3.5 hours here and there per week. So yes, it takes a bit of tailoring, but it's a conversation, right? It's not a sprint. Don't try to show everything you are in the first few months. You'll regret it because that'll be the level at which we'll expect you to operate potentially. So make sure you're honest about it, and no one will kick you off if you don't give as much as someone else. Everyone is different and has different things going on at work and at home.
I'd like say kind of the same thing in a little bit of a different way too. It's like, yes, say yes to the opportunities that come, but also, you know, ask yourself the tough questions so that you say no as well. So you're not biting off more that you can chew. You're not taking things on at a time that you can't really handle it, because we can get into pitfalls a little bit later, but like that isn't gonna be good for anybody. And at Leadership Institute, I can't for the life of me remember what the sort of like catchy way of saying it, but it was about like volunteer management and thinking about like the chunks of volunteerism that can go into a project. So breaking things down into, you know, is this a 3-hour task? Is this a 3-hour task every single week? Is this a 3-hour task once? Is this a 5-minute task that anybody can do? And think about your, you know, your volunteer network and how they can contribute to those things as well. Some chapters for sure are a little bit more blessed in the volunteer landscape, and Edmonton was one of those for us. So we were really lucky to have a lot of folks that were in that, but break stuff down, delegate. I mean, that again, like speaking to my personal experience at work as well, like this is a lesson I am learning continually, is like, I don't have to do it all, even though I sometimes don't think that anybody else can do it the way that I can do it. Like, you know, test yourself on that and ask yourself those hard questions and look around and look at the people that are around you that want to take stuff on and want to try things out.
I'll close this question with one piece I learned early on as well, is take a bit of time at the very beginning when you join a board to properly understand your portfolio and what's expected of it and what's been done in the past. Then you'll automatically have 1,000 ideas for how to make it better, how to innovate. Those are extremely important. My advice is identify 3 and don't be too hard on yourself when you achieve 1. That has happened to me almost every year I've volunteered for IABC. I have entire lists of 20 to 30 ideas I would get at a Dare to Lead. A lot of those still haven't happened. That doesn't mean they won't. I've passed it on to people after me in Regina and Saskatoon. But yeah, just be aware, especially when you're younger in your career, you'll think, oh, this is just like at work, but it's not. We all have other things. This is volunteerism. You're not being paid to do it. Therefore, what we expect out of you has to be different. Yeah, just pick something you're passionate about and be ready to reduce the scope as needed. Otherwise, again, you'll get into that resentful part of they're taking too much away from me. I don't get to see my friends. I don't get to do this or that. I have to wake up too early. I can't work out. My health is suffering. So, you know, always keep an eye on what you're getting out of it.
Thanks for saying that, Jonathan. That's a good point. Like, I 100% agree. And I've tried to tell other people on the board, give yourself some grace. You know, we're all operating in different situations. So give yourself some grace for sure. And that like 3, yeah, you're going to get 1 thing done.
Like, also just to build on that, you're part of a collective. There are tons of volunteers and leaders that have come before you. There are tons that are going to come after you. And even the way that the IABC board structure is set up, where even in the leadership track, as much as, you know, there are some exceptions sometimes due to, you know, what the capacity of the board is and stuff, but you're really only in those positions for a small amount of time. And I think you realized really early on, anybody that's kind of just finishing off their president year is like, oh wow, like when I became VP, these are all the things that I thought that I was going to be able to achieve. And that I wanted to achieve, but then you get to, you know, midway through your president year and you're like, oh, like this isn't mine, you know, this isn't mine, and it never was mine. But I've done what I can and I've contributed what I can, and now it's time for like that next group of people to come along and to contribute to this. So don't put so much pressure on yourself. Like definitely, you know, to what Jonathan is saying, focus on what you want to contribute and the value that you can bring. And choose, you know, try and whittle that list down as much as you can so that you can really focus on those things, but also give other people opportunities to shine and contribute to that, because, you know, eventually you won't even be on the board anymore.
can I just add to that before you go on, Will?
Absolutely.
I'm just thinking about that and thinking about in terms of, all of you that are going into new board positions, you're coming in right at sort of the tail end of a pandemic year, and just thinking about sort of how you set boundaries around what you're able to do and even what your board members are able to do is, this pandemic has definitely impacted all of us, and it impacts, I think, what we're all capable of. So I think that idea of sort of being kind to each other and understanding, whether somebody has 3 hours or 6 hours or where their mental headspace is, it doesn't mean they don't want to volunteer, but maybe they only have so much capacity. And I think that the more we're sort of kind to each other in that and remember what the circumstances are, and that people also, on top of that, have other things going on in their lives, like Will was saying, dealing with family losses and such, like everybody has different big things going on in their life. And it's amazing that they're coming still and stepping forward, and all of you are stepping forward to volunteer and take your part, do your part to drive forward communications. But yeah, we are in strange times, and even though in-person events might start opening up next year, and suddenly we all want to go on with gusto because we've had this length of time of everything being virtual, yeah, we want to be kind to ourselves.
You touched on this earlier, Amanda, and it was something that I think I first heard about when I went to Dare to Lead in Edmonton a couple of years ago. There was a conversation, I think it was called lazy leadership, of being able to know how to delegate. I think you're not actually lazy as leadership, but you're actually as a leader, but you're actually not doing nearly as much as leader because you're providing other people, empowering them to get the actual job done. I think that's kind of right, but that was the term.
That's exactly it. Thank you. And it was the distinction between that, lazy leadership and martyrdom, right? So when you're the one that takes everything on and gets everything done, but you crash and burn.
So on that note, I thought about this, and I don't think she'd mind me bringing this up. A former president of IABC Regina, Megan Wolfinger, was my president when I was her vice president. And the one after me, Peter, the three of us had babies as soon as we became presidents. So there was some camaraderie there about the many challenges that come with being a parent for the first time while becoming a president of a chapter. And one thing that Megan and I sat very often to do is her crazy ideas. So here's a program for an awards ceremony that we've never done before. Here is a mock-up of what the brochure will look like and the agenda and who's going to MC it and the categories. And every time she'd come with a crazy answer, she knew I would ask, how many hours did you put into this? So the big lesson for her, and she had to work on this, and I learned from her as well, is that as Jennifer said as well, and Elizabeth, the effort has to outlive you. Otherwise, it's useless. Your position may be 1 year, it might be 2 maximum, it might be 3 as incoming president and outgoing. What's going to be left after you're gone? Is it going to be a lot of administrivia that no one else wants to do and didn't think was important, so it'll never happen again? Or did you set up something like an awards program that has volunteer roles and a way for people to do this manageably without you, the workaholic that truly loves the idea and came up with it? So, it's a bit of that lazy leadership. You have to let go of some of the parameters. This means you won't control everything of what it looks like. But also you're making it sustainable. And that's the most important thing, because we come and go, but the membership stays. And what we put in place has to keep serving the members today and tomorrow.
You said it in the chat, Amanda. That's great. That's absolutely right. The effort has to outlive you. And this is a fantastic tip, Jonathan. What I'm going to do here is, because it's 12 o'clock and we go until 12:15 on this session, I'm going to ask one more question for everyone. And then if you, as part of the audience here, want to ask any questions, feel free to put it in the chat, or once they're done this question, we can open it up to ask them in person. So the last question that I'll ask you guys individually is, if you can choose one thing, what do you wish you knew when you were just starting? So what would you tell your fresh persona coming into IABC, what they should be aware of coming into this role as a leader?
I'll go first. Honestly, it's just building on what I've already said, leaning on the people that are around you. You don't have to do it all alone. Manageable expectations of yourself and of the people around you. Get involved. take all the training. There's professional development for us. This is one example. These next 2 days, learn as much as you can. This is, I don't know. I feel blessed that this last year as a VP has really allowed me, I knew that it was going to help me develop as the VP and the president for the chapter, but I didn't realize that the amount of connection that it was going to serve me in my actual role and the leadership opportunities it was going to give me. I'm leading, a board of 23 people. That translates to my real life example or my real life roles and the experiences that and it's given me the confidence to do things, to be the strategic advisor in my role, to public speak in a way that if I hadn't have done Capital Awards and I hadn't have been pushed up on the stage the way I had, I feel like I can do anything now. So, take advantages of the opportunities that IABC gives you because it's worthwhile.
Jonathan, you're off mute. I'm going to go to you.
Yeah, there are a lot of things. Will, I'll start with kudos to the region. There was no IABC 101 when I started. It took me years to even know what the other chapters of our region are, never mind the rest of the world. And that international piece is extremely important because it's what differentiates us from our competitors. We're the only global association of communicators. So it's important to know that and use that. And that leads to my second thing I wish I would have done earlier. And this is not just IABC, it's about my career progression in general. No one is better than me. And I'm not better than anyone else. And by that, I mean, everyone takes themselves extremely seriously, says the guy with the suit. Everyone takes themselves extremely seriously, IABC included. There's this perception that there's a clique. We inadvertently did it earlier today when a few of us were just talking as friends. There's that perception that it's a clique, that the higher levels are an elite of communications that is inaccessible. That's not true. There are people just like everyone here that has been part of IABC for 5 days. You're not less good than I am. And once I made that decision to not be intimidated, I started reaching out. I'm notably on the International Executive Board. No one really knew me. I just told them I'm going to apply because I think it's the right thing to do. And same with the region. I didn't necessarily know anyone. I said, I'm going to put my name in because I have some things to say and I think I can contribute. So it's a slide that I saw at the Kelowna Canada West Conference in 2016 or 17. It was during a break and I took a picture and it's in my office. And all it says is, if you have a good heart and you're coming from the right place, try giving less of a shit what everyone thinks about you. So I took that approach towards IABC, and that really helped me go above and beyond what I could have done in my small box. I've reached out to the past 7 or 8 chairs of international just to tell them, hey, there's something that bothers me in Regina, global person. Just so you're aware, perhaps you can help. So having that attitude of we're all doing the same thing for the same people. There's no one more important. There is no elite. There is no, you know what I mean? So you guys, for example, have my email. There is no snootiness here. You can reach me at any time. And I know Will and Sue are very much the same way. The clique isn't a clique. I know it's just a culture. The culture, what you should see is it's a group of colleagues and friends that are all passionate about the same thing. And you're now part of that. It's a clique of 6,300 people, and you're now part of that.
I'd say something really similar, even outside of board experience. Like I was saying earlier, there are a lot of volunteers that have come before you. There's going to be a lot of volunteers that come after you. And I'm always surprised at these moments when I'm like, oh, I used to serve on the IABC Edmonton board. Oh, really? I served on the IABC Edmonton board 20 years ago. Oh, cool. And then you have something to talk about and something to share. And there's also, there is credibility that comes with that. If you've served on the board, if you've been in a leadership position, it's not easy work. And working, communicators are Yeah, their standards for work are high. So you are working amongst a lot of people that are going to challenge you, that are going to inspire you, that are really going to build up your skill set and your confidence and all of those kinds of things. And that means something also out there in the world, because there's a ton of folks out there. So I'd say, you know, build on what Jonathan is saying, just be open, and also be open to being to what the opportunities are that present themselves. You know, there is a lot of, and this happens in jobs as well, where, you know, I think often if you have an idea of the track that you want to go down, it never really goes that way, right? So be open to the opportunities that present themselves. Sometimes there are people in more leadership positions in the IABC space or in your work life that are like, hey, we see this in you and we'd really like you to try and take this on. Make sure that it's manageable for you, for sure. It's not always the right opportunity, but when it presents itself, really give it a good look, especially when it's somebody that you respect that's really presenting that opportunity to you and thinks that you can do it.
I can speak after that. Just thinking about what I wish I knew. And I think that, and it sort of touches on a little bit of what Amanda was saying, I think too, but I think it's knowing my own strengths or abilities, or that other people might want to learn from me. It's kind of a cool thing. Like, I just want to bring up the pen pal program, for instance, that Dana initiated. I have this great pen pal in Toronto right now from IABC there, and we've been talking about careers, and she's young, junior in her communications career, so she's been asking me advice, and I've been sending her back ideas and stuff. And she was talking about how she wants to work in communications in post-secondary, but she really doesn't know how to start. And it seems like just really common sense to me. But I was like, well, start with IABC, find out who in IABC Toronto is working in education and go have coffee with them. And her response was like, oh my gosh, I don't know why I hadn't thought of that. I'm absolutely going to do that. And it was just a real reminder to me that, you know, these things that are maybe going on in my head, that somebody else that's maybe in a different place in their career wants to hear those things, and that there's something to offer. So to me, that's just a really exciting thing that I've been learning and growing from in my role in IBC. And yeah, thanks to Dana for creating that pen pal program and creating that relationship where a little bit of mentorship is starting to take place, because I wouldn't have seen myself as a mentor. I might have seen myself as somebody that wanted to be mentored. So the idea that actually I have something to say and an ability to mentor somebody is just hugely inspiring and invigorating. And yeah, just really happy about that. So.
That's awesome, guys. Okay, we have 7 minutes left. I do want to open it up to the floor and seeing if there's any other questions or any insights that you guys might want to talk about. And I know if you have any reservations, if you have any concerns about you joining into this role, we've talked a lot about it, but are there anything specific that we might be able to kind of help you work through or understand as you enter these high-performing, valuable roles as a volunteer?
I'll just chime in as a new person on the BC Board of Directors, Director of Finance this term, and also new to volunteering with IABC. So when Dana reached out to me about whether or not I wanted to move on to the VP and do the leadership track, one of the things that, because she's awesome and so on everything, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be like that. But at the same time, there's comfort in that. Like everyone brings something different to the role, different strengths, different areas of focus. So for me, being able to say yes was just accepting the fact that I'm going to bring what I can bring. I'm going to bring Carmen. That'll add value in some way to the organization. I'm not going to be like everybody else, but that's what makes this group really cool. So for me, that was a key thing to accepting that it's okay to go forward, that I'm ready to go forward. So I just thought that I would share that.
That's a fantastic thing to bring up, Carmen. Absolutely. You're never alone. I think all 6 of the chapters in Canada West have a vice president, president, past president system, and that's what's important as a whole, right? Many times on the region level, I had a huge extrovert and myself being more of an introvert. Those are huge strengths. You combine those and you make an outstanding complementary leadership team.
one of the funny things is when Jonathan and I were chair and past chair, we were taking turns about who could be the introvert and extrovert. So like Jonathan would be like, okay, tonight for Dare to Lead or for the conference, you're staying up and you're hosting the party. Tonight I'll do it, and then we'll be able to have that time to kind of recirculate our energy so that we're able to like kind of manage this, but also give the leadership the experience that they needed to connect and network and have fun as well. So yeah, lean on that, because sometimes you will have two introverts on a board at the same time, but you channel in different ways. Because I don't know if many people would kind of suspect that Jonathan or I are introverts.
I think there's something really beautiful also about giving each other confidence. You know, what Carmen was describing, you know, Dana tapping her and being like, hey, I think you can do this. She's like, oh, okay, I can do that now. And that, you know, that's happened to me a number of times as well. And I know I've heard lots of other experiences. And that's sometimes when you're feeling maybe like you're like, go gosh, have I bitten off more than I can chew? Am I really good enough? Like any of those sort of imposter syndrome feelings that you often get. It's really nice to have other people in your network around you that build you up and that you can lean into, and that you know think you're great and will support you to grow in that space.
So I definitely can reflect Carmen's experience, because Dana tapped me on the shoulder this year as well to join the BC board as the marketing communications co-director. And this was my first board experience. And the thing about leadership is seeing something in people that they don't see in themselves. So I'm really glad that Dana brought me to the table, and I'm super excited to learn and to have this experience with you all.
Keep bringing us these prime people, Dana. You're killing it in Vancouver, and like, yeah, everyone take that as a lesson, right? Like it's a matter of just going out there and tapping people, giving them the confidence that they need, that they can take these roles, whether it's a hard to fill role or an easy to fill role. It's all kind of the same formula. Any last thoughts? I know we're coming up to time here, but from the panel, are there any last thoughts that you want to share or build on before we adjourn?
I do.
Elizabeth.
Marry Dare to Lead, kill World Conference, and F Leadership Institute, because it's kind of like a one-night stand. Sorry, I've been thinking about it all hour.
That was clearly on your mind. Yeah. Yeah, leadership. Our last Leadership Institute, I can kind of see why you would think that. we did go pretty hard like that.
But you know, on that piece of, you know, the clickiness or the, you know, it feels kind of like, you know, there's a lot of inside baseball. It happens really quickly at these kinds of things because, and we talked about this at Leadership Institute, it's like when you're part of the board, when you're part of IABC, it's almost like you're vetted already for being a morally ethical, you know, person. You don't have to talk about what you do at work. You just connect on a different level. And we're all in this business because we're meaningful connectors. And so I don't know, it just makes sense that happens so easily. So just know that we're all going to be super tight.
And it won't take you long to break in. Like, honestly, like, yeah, it's just minimal effort. And even if you don't want to break you in, we'll drag you along with us.
But
on a scooter.
Suzanne put something in the chat a little while earlier, just saying, be you, right? Like, so, you know, just because those are how people are interacting and how people are coming together, that's a really beautiful part. And I can't recommend it more, but take your time, like get to know people, like you don't have to jump into that melting pot all at the same time either. It's got to be right for you, and you've got to find the folks that make you feel good in that space too. But it's a pretty safe space, I would say too. I think there's something about like that traveling, especially when we can go back to in-person conferences, and Dare to Lead is a really good is a good example of that. You just get the opportunity to really connect with people in a different way outside of your hometown, right? And that doesn't always happen, especially in a conference capacity where you might be the only one that comes from your workplace or wherever. You're already going with a group of people to make that safe and happy. But yeah, again, be you, focus on what's important to you, and but you know, we're always here to have a drink with you, give you a hug, tell you you're great. tap you on the shoulder if you're Dana, I guess.
And hopefully we'll return to that model really, really soon here, guys. But thank you for those closing statements, everyone. I really appreciate that. And hopefully everyone found value and some insights into this. And the conversation doesn't have to stop here. Jonathan, I saw, left his email and contact information on the chat. I've done so as well. As you continue on with Dare to Lead, I'm sure you're going to get more contacts. And what we're saying here is reach out to them. Like, we're all volunteers, and thank you to you for stepping up into this role and for being a volunteer. Thank you for leading your chapters, leading your members, representing your members and the profession, and doing for everything you're doing. And again, once again, I do want to thank the volunteers who are making Dare to Lead happen right now. Wendy, Gabby, Asha, I can see you guys all on here right now. So thank you for what you're doing, Celine as well, and yeah, we'll see you guys at the next sessions. We'll be continuing to have more of these great discussions, and yeah, enjoy it and keep the conversations going. Thank you.